2 hours, 40 minutes and 44 seconds. A new marathon PB, finally, after 2.5 years. Today we're going to be sitting down and going through the race blow by blow. So much to cover today, so much to talk about. Today is all about the Newport Marathon race recap. And just like that, 13 weeks of training and a Newport Marathon 2023 PB is done, in the books and now behind me. Excited to go through this race blow by blow because I've got so much to talk about, plus, as I said, loads of other things. So what I'm going to make sure I do is leave chapters along the bottom of the video so you can navigate through the sections that you're interested in. Obviously, if you're interested in the whole thing, very much appreciated. It's going to be a long video, so sit tight and buckle up. I'm going to do my best not to waffle too much, but there is so much for me to cover here. And what I want to do is cover everything that I think you guys might want to know. But if I miss anything out, please do feel free to leave a comment, and I'll do my best to get back to as many of them as possible. So without further ado, let's dive into the first point and get this show on the road. So two very small things before we dive into the meaty things. Number one, training is now all uploaded to the website. So I've been trying to keep on track on top of putting all my training onto the website in a blog post. That's now done. I was a bit slow during the training block, but I've managed to catch up, and everything now is on there. So if you're interested in running marathon later in the year and want to go back through my training, rather than having to scroll back through Strava, it's all up there on the website. With regards to Will, I had loads of questions and loads of messages about this personally. What's my relationship with Will in terms of coaching? He's featuring in videos. Is there some kind of deal that you've got going on? Just for full transparency, I pay Will monthly for his coaching services. There's no kind of special deal between me and Will. He's someone I've known for a couple of years. He's offered me coaching in the past. I've kind of declined. And then sort of end of last year, I took him up on his offer. And yeah, I've been paying him just like you guys pay coaches on a normal monthly fee. So he's been fantastic for me. And I've got to say, although I'm having a little break now, just to kind of refresh the mind and revitalize things, I will be picking things back up with him. Nothing's changing. I will be paying him as normal. So I just wanted to get that out there because a lot of you guys had questions on that. And the last thing I just want to say is pressure is lifted. Pressure is off. PB 2:44:38, 2.5 years ago at Shepherdine Marathon. 2 attempts since then to get close to it, a 2:56 and a 3:01, and now getting the 2:40 just is like... So I just wanted to say I've done what I set out to do. This was kind of a stepping stone for autumn. I've got the PB, I've got the goal that I wanted, I've got the Berlin fast runners time, I've got a good phrase time for London, and a Boston qualifying time. So I now have options for next year. So what are my intentions going into the race? Well, I just want to recap this because, again, I know I laid this out at the start of the training block, but I'm also very aware that I picked up a lot of subscribers throughout the training block, so not everyone was aware of what my goals and everything were going into the race. My intentions were, after the PB 2.5 years ago and then 2 failed attempts, I just wanted to take the pressure off. I wanted to have a strong run. I wanted to run well, but sort of 90 to 95% of what my ability allowed me to. I'm going to be honest with you, I feel like I got more out of myself on the day, but we'll get into that shortly. And I wanted to have almost like a dream race, or I just wanted to have a really strong run, which I've ticked all of those boxes, and I'm delighted that I have. So my intention was really never to go at full capacity, but I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, I could have run this, I could have done that, because I didn't. I ran what I ran, and this is the reasoning for it. I've just had 2 shocking marathons that have been really down to fueling issues more than anything. We can all blame weather, we can blame X, Y, and Z, but my main downfall as a runner, as a long distance runner, is fueling. And so all I wanted from this one was to get my fueling right throughout winter, start practicing all the way through to the end of this training block, and basically get into Newport knowing that I can take on a good amount of fuel. And again, we're going to cover what that was very, very shortly. And again, I tick those boxes. So that was my intention. That's what I set out to do. In my head, I wanted that sub 2:45, that Berlin fast time, and I got a 2:40. So absolutely buzzing with what we got. So now let's talk about fueling. Where did I start before the marathon, and where am I now with fueling? Well, I knew when I went into this that this was the massive and biggest thing that I needed to sort out. Drinking was an issue, and taking on gels was an issue. Stomach cramps, diaphragm just kind of seizing up. Everything was happening when I was taking all of these fluids and gels on, and really fluids were non-existent because I was getting stomach cramps and massive things were happening. So for me, this was the biggest issue that needed to be sorted. Post London, when I had a massive disaster winter. I knew that throughout the whole winter, this was something that needed to be working on. I chose Morton to focus on because I'd had Morton gels in the past and they've been okay, but I started to feel sick around the third gel. But to be fair, they went down a treat. So I stuck with them. I used SIS Beta Fuel gels in London. They are fantastic, but I just struggled to get the third one down because they're a bit bigger, a bit thicker in consistency, and for me, a little bit harder to get down. So went back to Morton and stuck with them. Persisted all through winter, was able to start practicing on long runs all the time, every single weekend, to the point where I was stomaching 3 to 4 gels per long run, which was great. Even when I didn't need to, it was all about training the stomach and getting it used to it. To the point where I got to Fission 20 a month ago at my 20-mile race, and I had a gel 10 minutes before the race, and then I had 4 on the run, one at 25 minutes, 45 minutes, 105, 125. When it came then to the 1 hour 40-minute gel, I felt as sick as a dog. So I knew, and I had that in the back of my mind going into Newport, that I could stomach in a race situation 4 gels during, 1 gel just before, and this wasn't going to be acceptable come Newport. So I knew things had to change, but then in Newport, I'll go through this in the race debrief, I managed to sink a gel 10 minutes before, and I managed to have 5.5 during the race. The half was, I tried, I forced it, I was telling myself, you feel as sick as a dog, you just got to get it down. I got half, I was like, like that was enough, and I was like, if I have any more, I'm going to spew my guts up. So I just had to ride that out for a mile, kind of let that feeling settle, and my stomach was then, it was done. So I got to the point where at the start of this block, I was struggling with 3 gels, and now with Morton, I'm able to take on 1 10 minutes before, and so far, 5.5 during the race. And the last thing for me to cover before we get into the race debriefs, just so this is all giving you good context going into this, is manual laps on the watch. So since London, I've completely got rid of auto lap off the watch. I don't want to know mile splits. I don't want to know anything. I set workouts up on Garmin Workout Builder, let that beep at me, do its thing, or I use the intervals if it's a dead simple type of workout, and it does it all for me. I don't want to know what pace I'm running in that mile. I don't want to know mile splits. I'm just not interested. It's something that I started to adopt last summer before London, but I would switch it back on for races. But since London, I've just gone cold turkey, and I'm just not interested. It's just worked wonders for my running. It's made me not care about the irrelevant things like what mile pace I'm doing, and it's allowed me to tune into my body and learn so much more about it, run by feel, and it's just done wonders. So when it came to the marathon, I wanted to use the manual lap option, which is something I've been doing in the long run workouts. When, if you follow the training series, I had things like 80 minutes steady, 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, just manually lapping. If I didn't set it up on the workout builder, I just manually lap it. And I thought, this might be a really good way to approach Newport. I remember doing with Matt the big long run of 80 minutes steady, 8 by 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, and then 34 minutes steady or whatever the last bit was. And I remember finishing the 8 by 3 on, 3 off, and then my watch went back to 0 because I had the 34-minute steady 2 or 30-minute steady. And I said to him, how many miles are we running? He went 22. And my mind was blown that because I wasn't looking at how many miles I run, 22 miles felt so easy, and I wanted to take that into the race. So I said to myself, right, my race tactic was 6:30 first mile, 6:20 second mile, 6:10-ish third mile, and then lock in. I know, let's play a game. Let's do the first 3 miles, then let's do a 10-mile at marathon pace stint. Then let's do another 10-mile at marathon pace stint, and I want you to run the second 10 miles average faster than the first 10 miles. I want you to progress this run, and then when you've done that, you've got 3 miles to go, you've got a part run to go. So that was my mentality going into the race. So if you do check my Strava, you'll see that's how my manual laps happened. Like, that's what I did during the race, and it absolutely worked a treat. So hopefully that's built up a picture now of what was going into the race, where my head was at, fueling, manual laps. Let's dive into the race debrief. And for one last time during this training series, I want to say a massive thanks to Saysky for sponsoring this video. They have been fantastic throughout this training series. I'm gutted that it's coming to an end. But they've been absolutely great. If you want to use the FOD15 discount code, which I'll put up there. It gets you 15% off their full price items on their website. You've seen the kit I've run in, you've seen the kit I've raced in, you've probably seen the photos of my bloody nipple on race day. I used Body Glide, the Body Glide failed. Yes, I will take my nipples next time. Their race kit is just something else. It's so, so nice. Everything I've worn during training has been great. I've worn them well before this sponsorship. Throughout this training series, I'll continue to use them after this. They've just been such a great company to work with, and I appreciate their support leading into Newport. So if you want to use that discount code, it's only going to be live for another week or so. Make sure you do, grab some items and let me know what you got. So let's dive into the race debrief. So I'm standing on the start line. I've gone into this feeling really confident. I have a bit of a glute niggle, which I picked up after that last big long run with Matt, but the taper has kind of let that settle down. I can still feel it, but overall I'm feeling really good, really strong, feeling confident. First marathon build-up where I've got to the start line, feeling confident. Even the fact that I had a bit of a glute niggle, it didn't impact anything. I just felt like, okay, today's the day. I felt like, come on, if you do this first bit right, the rest will take care of itself. So still on the start line, knowing I had to let people run off, 6:30, 6:20, 6:10, lock in. That was the goal. Gun goes off, really calm, nose breathing, relaxed. And I know on this watch, I'll show you this watch, when I'm running, my heart rate is in the top top right, where that it says Tuesday the 18th. It's up in that top right section. So I can't get it off the home screen, or I probably can, but I've just never bothered. My heart rate appears up there. And I know when I get into the 170s, I'm in danger. That's about my hour race pace effort. It's historically always been that way. I know when I get into the 170s, I'm on borrowed time. So I knew if I could keep my heart rate in the 150s, it would be the best thing ever, because I run a marathon in the 160s. But if I keep it in the 150s, I get as much fuel on board as I can early. Happy days. Don't get to 170. So I start off the first 2 or 3 miles thinking, yeah, just stick in the 150s. And that's what I did. So the 6:30, it was like late 140s, early 150s I was checking, and then going up and over the bridge, one of the only inclines on the race, again 150s, and I clocked looking back at the split 6:17, which was great. And then I was like, right, 6:10, but I didn't actually go to 6:10. I just casually stayed at 6:17. I thought, do you know what? This is good, because you're going to get fuel on board in a mile. You haven't even got near 160s. Your body's calm. This bodes well. And this is what you need with vision in mind, going only 4 gels and feeling sick. I need to keep my body calm so that I can get an extra gel on board. I took 6 with me. The plan was 6, but I only got 5.5. So that was my plan. Ticked off the 3rd mile, feeling really good. Started to kind of break away from the pack I was in, and that was at the point where we were just chipping away. Like at that point, I didn't then really settle in with any packs, bar one, which we'll talk about shortly. I was just picking people off all the way from that point onwards. So you just start to slowly ramp up the gears, and I go, right, mile 3 over, let's lock into marathon effort. Hit the lap button, 10 miles, go. So the goal in this 10 miles was like 6:05-ish. That's what I thought, all right, if you do 6:05-ish for this first 10, you can then do 5 something for the next 10 and see what you've got at the end. And that was the goal. So I was just kind of like running through miles 4, 5 and 6. And at that point, like, you start to branch out into the open country lanes. Now, for those of you interested in doing the Newport Marathon, you start in the Newport town, or on the riverfront, I should say, and you're in Newport for about a mile. You go out over a bridge, out through a little suburb area, and then you're out into the sticks. You're out into country lanes, and that is the majority of the race. There are some great pockets of support on the course, some great little towns you go through, but there are a lot of stretches where it is silent, and it's just you and your footsteps. So just bear that in mind if you're thinking of doing it. So 4, 5 and 6 tick off, and I'm gently watching my average pace come down, because again, I don't have a manual lap on, and that started at like 6:09, and it's slowly coming down, 6:06, 6:05. And I see someone that I run with at Lisry, a run club, Norts, Martin. We're running with another Lisry runner, and I'm like, okay, focus on them. That's where you're going to get to. I knew they were running 6:05s. Just catch up to them. I took my time, I didn't surge. It took me about 2 or 3 miles to get to them. I was just making really small ground on them, but I was like, okay, get there around mile 9, mile 10. That was basically what happened over sort of mile 6 to 9. I was literally just going past a pack, no man's land, past a pack, no man's land, and just working my way up the ladder. I was like, that's the goal, that's who I want to get to. And then once I get there, I'll sit in and run with them for a bit. So the first few miles ticked off really nicely. And again, like I caught up with them at like mile 8, 9-ish. And Nort said to me, oh, good to see you, or whatever it was, go on, off you go. And I was like, no, I'm going to sit in for a minute. So I sat with him and his club mate for in and around a couple of miles, 2-3 miles. I think I sat with him until sort of like mile 11.5, mile 12. And we just ran together. We just were chatting, keeping things really calm. And at this point, in terms of heart rate, nothing was going above 165. Like that, not that I could see. And it was low 160s. I was like, this is a dream. This is everything I want it to be. Because again, the body's staying calm. I'm taking on fuel. By this point, I'd had a gel 10 minutes before, had a gel at 25 minutes, had a gel at 45 minutes. And by this point, I think I had a gel at like an hour and 5 or whatever. It was just over the hour mark. So I was like, everything is going exactly the same as Fission. Happy days. I felt energized there. I'm feeling energized now, but I'm not working as hard as I was at Fission, naturally, because the pace was a little bit slower. So I locked in with them, and at mile 12, I just started to creep in front, and they were saying, go on, off you go. And I just turned around to them and I said, oh, I don't know what to do. Should I kick on now? What, you know, or shall I? And then I went, no, I'm going to wait till halfway. I didn't wait till halfway. I was an idiot. I just went then at mile 12. And basically what happened was at mile 12, I just started to notch it up a bit, knowing that I had like a mile left. My watch was saying like 9.25 miles. Because I was on that first 10 mile manual lapping. I was like 3/4 of a mile, then you're going to hit lap and you're going to go and you're going to try and average some 5s. And at that point I felt confident. That's when I came round through halfway, saw the clock at 1:20, late 1:20. And I was like, brilliant, this couldn't be going better right now. So I hit lap as I went over the halfway mark, just over 10 miles on my watch, and bam, locked in to, at the time, like 5:55 per mile pace. And I was like, okay, let's see if we can hold this. So then this is when the race got sparse. Like I was just picking runners off one by one. There were no packs. What these runners were, well, these are the runners that went out in, I think they were a big pack, but they went out around 6-minute mile pace, and they were all just starting to sort of slowly drop off. So I was just kind of like, just working my way up the ladder, just picking them off one by one. But it was desolate. There was just nobody out there. It was quite a lonely place to be. But I was feeling really good. Every mile marker was going by. I was going 12 miles to go, 11 miles to go, 10. I was just smiling, thinking, this isn't a marathon. This is easy. This is like my long run. Like that's how good I felt. It was ridiculous. And I still, to now, can't believe that's how I felt. Got to 17, 18, 19 miles. Felt really, really good still. I thought this is unbelievable. Really starting to pick off a fair few runners now. I'd had another gel at 120. 125. I had my fifth one. I had one at 145. My fifth one, that was great. And again, like my CAF one, I had a caffeinated one at 125. So then 145 is a normal one. And I really felt the caffeine. That was great. I felt buzzing through 20 miles. I hit 20 miles. I went, man, you've got 6 miles to go. Like I felt that good. It was ridiculous. And I was like, you're averaging 5:58 per mile right now. This is great. You've done exactly what you wanted to do. My watch was showing 7 miles. So I was like 3 miles to go until this end block is done. And that's all I focused on. So 21, 22, 23, just picking off more runners. And this is a point where I was getting to a point where I knew the hard bit was coming up, because there was a big out and back, which is very demoralizing. I remember it from when I did it in 2018 or 17. And I knew that things would get tough at that point. And I knew it would get tough because I couldn't stomach the last gel. So around 22, 23, I tried to have the last gel. I started like sipping it really, or getting a little bit down. It was sitting here. It wasn't going down. I felt as sick as a dog then. And that's when things took a bit of a turn. I got to mile 23, average 5:59, hit lap. I was like, yes, job done. Park run to go. This is it. And the final three miles on I think the 23rd, 24th mile is horrible. You wiggle through an industrial estate. It's just soul destroying. And at that point, I was really feeling the energy loss from not having a gel at like the 2 hour mark. And this is, I think, what cost me effectively a sub 240 was that final gel didn't go down, and that's when I felt a depletion of energy. I really did start to feel a bit drained. Nothing horrific. I felt way worse in other races, and pace dropped to 6:20 and 6:28, so it wasn't a major blow up, but I did feel the energy loss. I could feel my form start to go, and I was like, all right, okay, I'm done now. So got that horrible mile or two out of the way, and then I knew where I was. I was like, a mile and a half to go, get over the bridge, job done. And I could see two runners up in front of me in a yellow and blue in a yellow vest. I was like, they're your targets, get to them, try and lock in with them, run to the finish with them, just get to them. So that's sort of like mile 25, 26, we turn, we go back over the bridge, which is a horrible place to have a bridge in a marathon, but it's not horrific. I caught up to those two runners, I ran side by side with them, up and over the bridge, and as I came down off the bridge, I was like, I feel quite good. I don't know what's going on here, but I have seemed to have gained something back. I saw a 9 kilometer mark, which is for the 10K, because they run a 10K on the same day. And I was like, 2:37 dead, 2:37.00. I'm not going to run a 3-minute K. I'm not going to get under 2:40, but I can run 2:40 something. So you feel good now. You've got a second wind. Go for it. So I just tried to do whatever I could at that point to get to the end in a decent shape. I could hear their footsteps fading behind me, so I was like, okay, I'm pulling away from them. Let's just get there. And that last bit felt like it took for ages, but we got into the finish funnel. People were screaming. My friend Phil and his wife Steph were there shouting, "Come on!" And I was like, that gave me the fire to sprint, which is the sprint finish you saw in the race vlog. Yeah, it really did help. They put in the video, that helped, and it's like, it did help. It really did help. It gave me a bit of fire, loads of people just shouting, screaming your name, and I was like, this is it. So I just put the hammer down, and then I put the hammer down too early. I had to sort of like jog the last 100 meters, but it was a great experience, and then came in sort of 2:40, crossed the line, sore legs, but upright, no wobbles, didn't feel depleted as such. Felt really good, literally felt like I'd just done my longest long run of the block. Felt a bit sore, as you would after a long run, but nothing more. And I just remember thinking to myself, that is what I've always dreamed a marathon to feel like. And I can't believe it's just happened. I think this is going to, and I remember thinking at the time, wow, summer's going to be immense. I'm going to kick on from this really, really well. And that was my first thought. I was like, I can't believe you've done this. Shorter distance stuff now, absolutely buzzing. Grab your medal, recovery week, and let's move on to the summer. So I think the main differences between this one and previous marathon, in any other previous marathons, well, there's a couple of things. Weather was definitely on my side that day. It was on everyone's side. It was around 10, 11 degrees. It was overcast. We had a bit of rain even whilst we were out there. It was ideal. Like, I love running in the rain. There was no wind. There was no wind. There was just the tiniest few gusts on the back straight around, I don't know, 13 to 17 miles, but it didn't make any impact. It was ideal. Like, I wouldn't want to run a marathon any differently. That was a dream. Water stations were great. Grab water, was drinking water. So that was a big difference. Strength and conditioning and core work. My word, this is the difference between me being able to fuel and not fuel. So previously, when I was getting stomach cramps, diaphragm sort of collapsing, just kind of like compressing, this was all due to posture. You probably saw the clips of the marathon towards the end. I did start to kind of, someone put, I love your bulldozer running style. I do get like a bulldozer. I do kind of like, almost like a rugby player towards the end. That didn't happen until mile 23, in all honesty. I felt really good with my form. I felt really, really clean, moving well, arms back, driving forwards, no crossing. It changed at 23 when I started to lose the energy and started to kind of bulldoze my way, I guess, my way through. But overall, like, that strength and conditioning, that core held me up for so much longer in the race. And again, it just made the world of difference, because it means that I could fuel and drink. And then when I did have stomach issues, all I was doing was breathing through them. I did get a few stitches, I'm not going to lie, but all I did was just literally notch back off the gas, in through the nose, really inflate the diaphragm, out through the mouth, really deflate the diaphragm. Did that 5 or 10 times, gone. Got back into my rhythm, job done. So I was just like, Stitch, keep calm, do that and get back on it. So that made a massive difference. And again, the fueling, I've got to be honest with you, again, I will say to everybody, if you're starting to fade around 15, 16, 17, 18 miles, look at your fueling. How are you fueling? Are you fueling enough? Are you getting enough calories on? Because this is the biggest killer of marathon dreams out there. Fueling is just so essential. I'm learning it. You guys have been screaming it at me. Finally, I've delivered something because I fueled, and there's so much more work to be done with fueling over the next 2, 3, 4 blocks. But I feel like I made a step in the right direction. So those are the things that really made a difference. And finally, I want to leave with a couple of common questions that were popping up on YouTube and on Instagram and other social media. Sub 240, were you gutted? It was the first thing actually Coach Will messaged me. I know you're going to be frustrated. You didn't quite make it. I'm like, I'm not. This is one of the first times ever where I've got close to an arbitrary time goal, a bracket, or I guess it's not really arbitrary in this case, is it? Because it's the difference between a good Fraser London time and a championship one. But I couldn't give a damn. Like, to run a good marathon was what I set myself the goal. And I did. That's exactly what I did. Like, I'm delighted. I'm buzzing. I feel good. So no, that was never the goal. I'm not going to lie. When I was around mile 17, 18, 19 and averaging like 556, 557 per mile at that point, I was thinking you might get a sub 240, and that really put a fire in my belly. So I'm not going to say it didn't cross my mind whilst I was out there, but that was never the goal going into it. As I said, I was hoping for a 2:45 to get the Berlin fast time for next year. That would be amazing. I'm not saying that that's exactly what I'm doing next year, but it gives me an option to do it. So yeah, no, that wasn't an option. No, I'm not gutted I didn't make it. Yes, that's going to be the autumn goal though, go sub 240. The second common question was the field sparse, as in the field, the depth of runners, that sort of thing. At that top end, it really was. You saw from the clips, it was like a time trial after the halfway mark. I think with a newer marathon, because this is only like the third or fourth edition of it, it takes time to build up the volume and quality. The quality's coming, the winning times are coming down. You saw 2:19, what a great performance. But a lot of these runners in the top, sort of before sub 3, a lot of them are running solo, and it is not quite like Manchester, probably Brighton, London, and any of the other majors and big events. It's getting there though, and I think with that you've got to go, yeah, the depth of field isn't great. Yeah, it was like a time trial. Yes, I might have gone faster with the pack. You can say all these things, but the reality is the race was what it was, and I ran what I ran. And if you're considering Newport and you are in that top end range of paces, just be aware the field is a little bit thinner at the top. And so you might find yourself out there on your own a fair bit. It doesn't really bother me. I don't mind it. Yeah, I prefer to run in a group 100%, but it doesn't also bother me if I'm running on my own, because I'm quite comfortable with my own thoughts, and you know, I'm quite good at doing that sort of thing. I train on my own most of the time. It's all good. So yeah, common questions answered. Hopefully that makes sense. So if I've missed anything, please do feel free to drop a comment below. Hopefully I've covered everything today that I'm guessing you guys might have asked, or some of you have asked who are on the journey, or some of you left comments on the race vlog. That is my still processing race thoughts of Newport. Absolutely buzzing, having this week off. Next stop, London, next weekend to film the race. Cannot wait to see some of you out there. I'll be shouting at the top of my lungs, screaming as much as I can. I will do a video coming up, probably later this week actually, doing about what's next, what my plans are. I'm going to go through all of that for the rest of the year, for summer, some of the races I'm going to be doing, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, other than that, I just want to, for one last time, extend a heartfelt massive thanks to each and every one of you for supporting the journey, just watching the videos, liking, commenting, sharing, whatever it is. I appreciate it. It means so much to me, the overwhelming support. I mean, the race vlog hit 10,000 views just after 24 hours. I've never experienced that before. Not even my London vlog did that well in such a short space of time. So I can't thank you enough for all of your support. It means the world to me, and I appreciate you following on with the journey. So let's wrap this up here. That is it for today, guys. If you made it to the end, I salute you. I waffled on, but I had to get all that out, and I just wanted to share it all with you guys. If you enjoyed the video, please do consider giving it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and I will see you on the next one. Until then.